Part 2 Closing Day Chapter 8 A View of the Overlook Mommy was worried. She was afraid the bug wouldn't make it up and down all these mountains and that they would get stranded by the side of the road where somebody might come ripping along and hit them. Danny himself was more sanguine. If Daddy thought the bug would make this one last trip, then probably it would. "We're just about there," Jack said. Wendy brushed her hair back from her temples. Thank God. She was sitting in the right-hand bucket, a Victoria Holt paperback open, but face down in her lap. She was wearing her blue dress, the one Danny thought was her prettiest. It had a sailor collar and made her look very young, like a girl just getting ready to graduate from high school. Daddy kept putting his hand high up on her leg, and she kept laughing and brushing it off, saying, "Get away, fly." Danny was more impressed with the mountains. One day Daddy had taken them up in the ones near Boulder, the ones they called the Flatirons, but these were much bigger, and on the tallest of them you could see a fine dusting of snow, which Daddy said was often there year-round. And they were actually in the mountains, no goofing around. Sheer rock faces rose all around them, so high you could barely see the tops, even by craning your neck out the window. When they left Boulder, the temperature had been in the high 70s. Now, just after noon, the air up here felt crisp and cold like November back in Vermont, and Daddy had the heater going. Not that it worked all that well. They had passed several signs that said falling rock zone. Mommy read each one to him. And although Danny had waited anxiously to see some rock fall, none had, at least not yet. Half an hour ago they had passed another sign that Daddy said was very important. This sign said entering Sidewinder Pass, and Daddy said that sign was as far as the snowplows went in the wintertime. After that the road got too steep. In the winter the road was closed from the little town of Sidewinder, which they had gone through just before they got to that sign, all the way to Buckland, Utah. Now they were passing another sign. "What's that one, Mom?" "That one says, 'Slower vehicles use right lane.' That means us." "The bug'll make it," Danny said. "Please God," Mommy said and crossed her fingers. Always with the interruptions. I'm gonna plug in my computer. Hold on. I hear you. No. I fucked up the camera. No, I didn't. Okay, I'm good. Danny looked down at her open-toed sandals and saw that she had crossed her toes as well. He giggled. She smiled back, but he knew that she was still worried. The road wound up and up in a series of slow S-curves, and Jack dropped the bug's stick shift from fourth gear to third, then into second. The bug wheezed and protested, and Wendy's eye fixed on the speedometer needle, which sank from 40 to 30 to 20, where it hovered reluctantly. "The fuel pump," she began timidly. "The fuel pump will go another 3 miles," Jack said shortly. The rock wall fell away on their right, disclosing a slashed valley that seemed to go down forever, lined a dark green with Rocky Mountain pine and spruce. The pines fell away to gray cliffs of rock that dropped for hundreds of feet before smoothing out. She saw a waterfall spilling over one of them, the early afternoon sun sparkling in it like a golden fish snared in a blue net. They were beautiful mountains, but they were hard. She didn't think they would forgive many mistakes. An unhappy foreboding rose in her throat. Further west in the Sierra Nevada, the Donner Party had become snowbound and had resorted to cannibalism to stay alive. The mountains did not forgive many mistakes. With a punch of the clutch and a jerk, Jack shifted down to first gear, and they labored upward, the bug's engine thumping gamely. "You know," she said, "I don't think we've seen 5 cars since we came through Sidewinder, and one of them was the hotel limousine." Jack nodded. Excuse me. It goes right to Stapleton Airport in Denver. There's already some icy patches beyond the hotel, Watson says, and they're forecasting more snow for tomorrow up higher. Anybody going through these mountains now wants to be on one of the main roads just in case. That goddamn Ullman better still be up there. I guess he will be. You're sure the larder is fully stocked? She asked, still thinking of the Donners. He said so. He wanted Holleran to go over it with you. Holleran's the cook. Oh, she said faintly, looking at the speedometer. It had dropped from 15 to 10 miles an hour. There's the top, Jack said, pointing 300 yards ahead. There's a scenic turnout and you can see the overlook from there. I'm going to pull off the road and give the bug a chance to rest. He craned over his shoulder at Danny, who was sitting on a pile of blankets. What do you think, Doc? We might see some deer or caribou. Sure, Dad. The VW labored up and up. The speedometer dropped to just above the 5-mile-an-hour hash mark and was beginning to hitch when Jack pulled off the road. What's that sign, Mommy? Scenic turnout, she read dutifully, and stepped on the emergency brake and let the VW run in neutral. Oh, that's visible. Alright. Come on, he said, and got out. They walked to the guardrail together. That's it, Jack said, and pointed at 11 o'clock. For Wendy, it was like discovering truth in a cliché. Her breath was taken away. For a moment she was unable to breathe at all. The view had knocked the wind from her. They were standing near the top of one peak. Across from them, who knew how far, an even taller mountain reared into the sky, its jagged tip only a silhouette that was now nimbused by the sun, which was beginning its decline. I can't speak today. Can't read. The whole valley floor was spread out below them, the slopes that they had climbed in the laboring bug falling away with such dizzying suddenness that she knew to look down there for too long would bring on nausea and eventual vomiting. The imagination seemed to spring to full life in the clear air, beyond the reign of reason, and to look was to helplessly see oneself plunging down and down and down, sky and slopes changing places in slow cartwheels, the scream drifting from your mouth like a lazy balloon as your hair and your dress billowed out. She jerked her gaze away from the drop, almost by force, and followed Jack's finger. She could see the highway clinging to the side of the cathedral spire, switching back on itself, but always tending northwest, still climbing but at a more gentle angle. Further up, seemingly set directly to the slope itself, she saw the grimly clinging pines give way to the wide square of green lawn, and standing in the middle of it, looking over all this, the hotel. The Overlook. Seeing it, she found breath and voice again. I wish I could. Oh, Jack, it's gorgeous. Yes, it is, he said. Ullman says he thinks it's the single most beautiful location in America. I don't care much for him, but I think he might be. Danny? Danny, are you all right? She looked around for him, and her sudden fear for him blotted out everything else, stupendous or not. She darted toward him. He was holding onto the guardrail and looking up at the hotel, his face a pasty gray color. His eyes had the blank look of someone on the verge of fainting. She knelt beside him and put steadying hands on his shoulders. Danny, what's... Jack was beside her. You okay, Doc? He gave Danny a brisk little shake and his eyes cleared. I'm okay, Daddy. I'm fine. What was it, Danny? She asked. Were you dizzy, honey? No, I was just thinking. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. He looked at his parents kneeling in front of him and offered them a small puzzled smile. Maybe it was the sun. The sun got in my eyes. We'll get you up to the hotel and give you a drink of water, Daddy said. Okay. And in the bug, which moved upward more surely on the gentler grade, he kept looking out between them as the road unwound, affording occasional glimpses of the Overlook Hotel, its massive bank of westward-looking windows reflecting back the sun. It was the place he had seen in the midst of the blizzard, the dark and booming place where some hideously familiar figure sought him down long corridors carpeted with jungle. The place Tony had warned him against. It was here. It was here. Whatever red rum was, it was here. And that was chapter 8. I'm having an incredibly hard time reading today, but I will do my best to continue today. Alright, I'll be back with chapter 9.